Pokemon Wind and Waves were just announced via Pokemon Day through the Pokemon Company's official YouTube channel on their official Pokemon live stream. And I gotta say, these look really, really good. These games look incredible just based off of the footage that we've seen so far. But let's take a deep dive into seeing what else we can find in the Pokemon Winds and Waves trailer. Let's take a look. Okay, so this first bit here isn't even really gameplay footage. I was even just wondering if we should just kind of scrub past it or not. Should be fine though. You know, we just kind of start from Generation 1. Generation 2. Generation 3. Generation 4. Generation 5. Generation 6. Generation 7. Generation 8. Generation 9. And now we move on to Generation 10. Okay, so going back real quick. I love when we do promotional stuff for Pokemon in the Pokemon Company. The visual effects for Pikachu just get better and better with every passing year, so that's always nice. There we go. Okay, so according to the official Pokemon press release on Pokemon.com, these two are Mr. Windy Chew and Mrs. Wavy Chew, and how they factor into the main plot and story and game remains to be seen. So I think they look like sunburnt Pikachus. They're you know, as a Pokemon fan, a longtime Pokemon fan, I think putting Pikachu in outfits is getting a little old, but I kind of also understand the novelty to it too. Okay, so the Wailord and Wailmer look incredible. Honestly, the visuals are kind of reminding me a little bit of new Pokemon Snap. Just a little bit. But the textures, the lighting, it looks like such an improvement from both Legend ZA and Scarlet and Violet, and I think they're headed in the right direction in terms of visuals. Now, they did also say that this region will be based off of Southeast Asia and the islands accompanying that general region, and based off of the architecture here, and based off of just the spire here, and the, you know, man, this just looks so good. I'm very curious. I wonder if this is your starting point. I feel like this is your starting point because we do see the main character come out of it too. Yep. Okay, so we have some very familiar Pokemon. We've got Tangela, Oddish, obviously. Yeah, this looks way, way more fully realized than both ZA and Scarlet and Violet, I would say, combined. It definitely feels like this is going to be a more open, wide area Pokemon game. Maybe more so than Sword and Shield. Maybe more so than Scarlet and Violet, where we're going to get maybe a little bit less urban feel and a little bit more village-esque feel to it, as opposed to something more modern, which is actually kind of refreshing, because some of the Pokemon games, especially Gens 8 and 9, you could almost argue they might be too modern, but look at the just looking at what they're wearing, the main characters, I am banking on the fact that the thing attached to the backpack is probably some kind of hoverboard. That's my guess. I can't say for sure. I've not seen any leak footage. I don't know that. So if it is, it is. If not, that's just what I'm guessing. It'd be cool if it was. Not really sure, but yeah, this looks great. This looks really good. But I think if I have kind of a problem right now with this trailer, if I have one, or maybe it's not really a problem, more like a gripe, it's we don't see any new Pokemon. And I understand that. They kind of want to save that for future reveals, and it's just kind of par for the course for how they operate, the Pokemon Company in particular. So let's go back and look at some of the scenery here. And look, Ladybug, Generation 2 bug Pokemon. So we've got just visually, okay, this reminds me of Humilau City from Unova a little bit, but much more fully realized. It almost looks like if Humilau City was realized in Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness or Coliseum, but on Nintendo Switch graphics. This is beautiful. And you can see through the water very clearly. I actually wouldn't doubt one bit that dive and surf and fly are probably going to be your main points of transportation. They've even said that as such. And there even does seem to be some canyon, wide open savanna-ish areas here too. Now there's something interesting. Centiskorch and Slugma inside of a magma cave. Ideal habitat for fire-type Pokemon. So we will get some lava venturing. Okay. So that, the catching the Pokemon, I don't know why that feels so off compared to everything else in this trailer. But then again, this is still, I wouldn't call alpha, or maybe this is probably a rough beta build, if anything. Maybe they'll probably be able to smooth that out by the time that game's released next year. But still, just something just feels really off about just that whole animation. I can't quite put my tongue on what it is. You know what? Maybe it's because it's like watch it, very like it opens up and then you don't even really see it turn. I don't know. Like I said, maybe they'll just hopefully smooth some of that out by the time the game comes out next year. Interesting habitats here for some Pokemon. All right, so we have our 3 starters here. Yeah. The more I look at them, the more I think about it, I'm just like, one of them looks like an angry bird. One of them looks like they belong in a Mario game. And then the water starter looks like it belongs as a potential enemy you'd fight in Legend of Zelda. The more I look at these starters, I'm like, okay, all right. I'm going to kind of need to see what their final evolutions look like before I probably decide on one of them. But I'm already kind of leaning towards the water starter. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce them. We've got Brout, Pombon, and Gekwa. Yeah, I'm definitely probably gonna get Gekwa. That's the one I'm probably looking at. Okay, but just going back, look at your character. Look at the character. Just look at the character and look at the water. It looks so good. I feel like this is definitely coming back as like a, kind of a clap back to all the people who thought that their visual effects departments weren't up to snuff after Legend ZA, and this absolutely feels like a, oh really? Okay, hold my beer. Like, we'll show you visuals, and they do. Like, this looks really good. I'm very curious to see how you transition from getting your character into the water by way of a Pokemon or some other, snorkel or some other means, like a key item in these Pokemon games, or even like a bike like they did in Generation 8. But this looks really good. Like, this looks so good, especially for a Pokemon game. Like, wow. And I'm also not surprised that these games are exclusively on Switch 2. Not surprised at all. Based off of the handling power that they provide, Scarlet and Violet, yeah, it's a no-brainer they're putting these on Switch 2. So, there's a cloud here, and it kind of looks like a Pokemon or something. I don't know. I don't think it's anything more than just a dark cloud. That's my guess. But look, that if just look at all of this in the outskirts. If you can sail to those islands and then also those islands back there, like, this is going to be a very, very open world. And I'm actually going to coin something Steve said from Pokemon Cast, super effective, and he basically called it Pokemon Wind Waker, and I feel like that's actually a really apt comparison because it's very similar. You are going to be probably boating or surfing from island to island or flying from these islands. So I think that's a very apt description. I'm very curious to see what other islands come from Wind and Waves. But, we also get underwater. I'm convinced, just based off this notion alone, we will be going submerse. We will be going, like, dive is making a return in Pokemon. I fully believe that dive will be utilized in this game for sure, and I think this section all but confirms that. You got some Tynamo, Krabby, Wailords. Love it. Pokemon Winds and Pokemon Waves. Global simultaneous release in 2027. Okay. So, for the first time since, I believe, Gen 4, this is the first time that they have not utilized some kind of red, blue color hue for the games. Because you have red and blue. Obviously, red and blue, Charizard and Blastoise on the cover. And then you add gold, silver, crystal. Obviously not a red and blue color scheme, but they function at the functionality, serves similar to red and blue. The version exclusives carries over. So then you get to Ruby and Sapphire. Ruby and Sapphire also red and blue colored cartridges. Diamond and Pearl. Diamond was blue, Pearl was pink, even though you could argue that pink is a shade of red. And then you get to Black and White. Now, obviously, Black and White also have their respective legendary Pokemon in the form of Zekrom and Reshiram. Zekrom and Reshiram had blue and red eyes respectively, so there's also some red and blue connectivity there. Then you get to Generation 6. X and Y, Yveltal and Xerneas are red and blue colored generational legendary Pokemon for their respective games. And again, the red and blue color scheme is present. Then you get to Generation 7, Sun and Moon. Again, Sun, Moon, red, blue. The sun is red, the moon blue, etc., etc. Then you get to Pokemon Sword and Shield. What was the color of the shield? Red. What was the color of Sword? Blue. Zacian and Zamazenta, they're a red and blue Pokemon. Like, there's always been a very consistent, near consistent red and blue theme with Pokemon in a lot of their mainline games, even so much so with Scarlet and Violet, where Miraidon was a red Pokemon, and Miraidon was the blue Pokemon, Koraidon is the red Pokemon. And so it's very interesting to me that now with Gen 10 we are getting one Pokemon game, of the two, because we usually get them in pairs. We have one Pokemon game that is blue in terms of color scheme and one that is green, because initially when Pokemon came out in Japan it was red and green and then blue, and then when it came to the States it was Pokemon Red and Blue. So this is a very interesting small change up, and I'm happy with it. I gotta be honest, I'm actually also cool with these games coming out in 2027. Like, take all the time you need to finish these games and polish them, make them look as good as they can possibly be. Because just based off of what we've seen here, this is probably going to be the biggest Pokemon game that they've made to date. and that's saying something. And I don't know that the pressure is on for the Pokemon Company to do that, but they always like to exceed their own expectations. And I feel like, some of the criticisms from Scarlet and Violet really rang true to them, and I feel like that's why they're really, really going all out with Winds and Waves. So this is really good. This is going to be great. This is a really great way to end their Pokemon Day showcase. I can understand some people's frustrations if these games aren't coming out immediately at the end of this year, but I'm totally fine with them coming out next year. I'm actually going to venture to guess that these do not come until holiday of 2027. I'm putting my flag right there. These games will not release until holiday of 2027. That's my bet. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Like and subscribe if you guys like these videos. Like and subscribe if you definitely like this. Please let me know what you guys think. If you're a Pokemon fan, let me know what your starter's going to be. Let me know. I'm very curious to see what y'all think of Pokemon Winds and Waves coming in 2027.